1,000 billion years ago, the world was empty, silent, covered in endless darkness, until the goddess of light poured her light across the chaos and created a vast continent where many races were born, like the dragon folk, the Onis, the demon kings, the elves, the dwarves, the centaurs, the beast folk, and the humans, including this tiny dwarf-looking boy here, our protagonist Light, who after saying goodbye to his family begins his journey as an adventurer. But as soon as he reaches the city, he quickly realizes how humans, or at least he, are despised by the other races. And when he enters the Adventurers Guild and registers with the receptionist, she tells him he'll start with rank F since he's new, and then asks what special ability he has, so he explains that his gift is something called unlimited gacha. But she doesn't understand and asks him to show it, so Light pulls the handle of the gacha machine and gets a bent fork. What an absolute trash ability, at least for now. But he keeps trying so he doesn't look useless, yet everything that comes out is garbage, even rotten fruit. So the receptionist confirms rank F is perfect for him and tells him it's the best he can get right now. And when Light asks what job he can do, she points at the request board but notices how nervous he looks and asks if he has trouble reading, and he admits it, which doesn't surprise her since human literacy is very low. So she recommends simple jobs like gathering firewood and other tiny chores, which obviously pay very little, but Light accepts happily anyway, and after a long day of hard work, he barely earns enough to afford a cheap inn. But as he walks through the dark streets, some beast folk bump into him, accuse him of dirtying their clothes, and as compensation steal all his money and kick him into a puddle, walking away laughing while other races stare at him with disgusting looks, except for one group who approaches him gently, but when they touch his hand he panics thinking they're going to hurt him. Yet the group kneels beside him in the muddy puddle and hugs him to show they won't harm him. Then they explain they belong to the Conquered of Tribes, a special team representing the 9 races created by the goddess. The elf introduces herself as Sasha, the werewolf is Guru, the Dragonian is Drago. Very original, I know. Eloni is the demon king, Sion the dark elf, and Nano the dwarf, and of course Centaur the centaur, and they tell Light their group is missing one member, a human. So the Conquered of Tribes will be complete because they want to end racial discrimination and build a world where everyone can live together equally, and they need someone like him to join, so Light happily accepts. And in the next scene, the group is in a massive dungeon protecting Light from danger, and he feels completely useless. But Sasha tells him not to feel frustrated because this is the biggest and most dangerous dungeon in the world, and the rest of the team starts teasing the two of them, saying they look cute together, making Sasha blush as she says she just doesn't want the Conquered of Tribes to look bad if their human member dies. But the others say, yeah, whatever, and Drago pats Light's shoulder and tells him not to worry. They love the tea he makes, and that alone is already useful. So they continue through the dungeon until Guru says they've reached the right spot, and everyone suddenly changes their expressions, while innocent Light asks if it's time to rest so he can prepare tea. And just as he begins to set things up, Garu coldly tells him he is expelled from the group, and every single member reveals their true colors, telling Light they can't stand him anymore. Humans stink and are useless and insignificant. Shocked, Light asks why they're doing this when they treated him so kindly before, and they admit they were only pretending because the higher-ups were worried about his unlimited gacha ability and ordered them to keep an eye on him. So they added him to the group thinking he might be a master, until they realized his skills are mediocre and his gift is trash. So now he's nothing but a burden. And Sasha says she's relieved he isn't a master because the idea of marrying a lower creature like him disgusts her. And Light, confused and shaking, asks what they even mean by master. But the Conquered of Tribes prepares to kill him before other adventurers show up, because they were given strict orders to eliminate any potential problem at the root. And Guru punches him in the face, forcing Light to run for his life in panic. But Sasha shoots an arrow straight into his leg, making him fall screaming as the group delights in his pain, while Garu begins beating him brutally. But the others stop him because they plan to report that their human member died in a surprise monster attack, so the body must not have suspicious wounds that contradict the story. Light drags himself across the ground, desperately trying to stay alive, wondering why in the world all of this is happening to him, saying he wants to live. And the moment he screams that desire, a magic seal suddenly appears beneath him. Drago panics when he realizes Light activated a magic trap on the floor, and Guru immediately charges toward him. But by sheer luck, Light vanishes and escapes, only to reappear somewhere else inside the dungeon, the most dangerous dungeon in the entire world, and he instantly understands that if he didn't die at the hands of those traitors, then he will definitely die when he runs into a monster. Frustrated and broken, he starts crying because he truly cared about them. They treated him kindly, but it was all a disgusting lie, and they dragged him into this dungeon just to get rid of him. And he remembers they mentioned orders, wondering if that's why they tried to kill him. But then he shakes his head because none of that matters anymore. What matters is revenge. He will rip out the guts of every one of those bastards, he swears it. Yet right after shouting that promise, an enormous level 1000 monster appears behind him, making Light realize the trap teleported him to the deepest part of the abyss. But even with death breathing down his neck, he refuses to give up. He will not die here, not before seeing his family again, not before taking revenge, and with pure desperation he starts using his gacha over and over, until suddenly the gacha behind behaves strangely, something he has never seen happen before, and out of it appears a glowing busty maid who instantly destroys the monster with no mercy, declaring she will never forgive anyone who threatens her master. Light stares in shock as the girl walks toward him, kneels respectfully, and after seeing that her master is wounded, she heals him effortlessly, then politely asks if he would honor her by giving her his name. So Light introduces himself and the maid blushes deeply as she repeats his name and calls him master, explaining that according to the honor code of a maid, she is bound to serve him with her life, swearing absolute loyalty until death. Light, stunned, asks who she is, and she gracefully introduces herself as May, the maid who always seeks her master, revealing that her level is 1999 and that she is an ultra super rare card that came from his unlimited gacha, promising she will always stay by his side. But Light can't believe it because his gacha only gives trash, and it feels impossible that someone this incredible came from it, and May gently asks him to call her only by her name. Seeing how insistent she is, Light agrees, and then May asks for permission to use her appraisal skill to inspect the details of his gacha. Surprised, Light asks if appraisal is her gift, and she tells him no, it's one of her innate abilities, then explains that it is impossible for his gift to be useless. So she asks again to evaluate him, and when Light agrees, she is shocked to discover that all of his abilities are hidden under an extremely strong layer of concealment, meaning no one who isn't at her level could ever see his true details. She explains that unlimited gacha is far from a useless ability because he can use it infinitely, and the probabilities and rarities of the cards it produces change depending on the mana density around him. The rarities go from highest to lowest as extra, super ultra rare, triple S rare, double S rare, rare, normal, and error. She tells him mana density exists everywhere in the world, but on the surface the density is very low, which is why pulling a super ultra rare like her is nearly impossible. But in the depths of this dungeon, mana is overflowing, meaning he has a much higher chance of summoning rare cards, and she congratulates him for being brave enough to travel all the way here alone just to use the true potential of his unlimited gacha, though meeting even one monster here would normally be fatal with his current stats. But now that she is with him, there won't be any problem. However, Light interrupts her, telling her he could never have come to the abyss alone. He was with a group, but they betrayed him. They cut him, pierced him. Light explains that they pierced him with arrows and left him on the brink of death, almost killed by the very people he trusted, when all he ever wanted was to protect and feed his family. They bragged about ending discrimination and creating a fair world, but they only wanted to use him, so he swears they will pay and he will not rest until they get what they deserve. Though at that moment, May suddenly hugs him, apologizing because a maid like her could never understand the depth of his suffering. But she can promise him something. She will bring divine retribution upon his enemies and only needs his order so she can hunt down those faithless traitors and bring back their heads mounted on pikes. But Light quickly tells her he can't allow that, and May says he has a kind heart, but those people do not deserve mercy. Light answers that's not the point. He trusted them and they betrayed him. But that happened because he is too weak, which means he must become stronger, even if it's impossible for a human like him, because he wants revenge with his own hands. He wants to make them pay himself, and he nervously asks May if she thinks that dream is foolish, but she kneels respectfully and tells him that her master's desire is her desire, and if what he seeks is personal revenge, then by her honor, she will help him achieve it, because she believes in his potential. And Light thanks her deeply before using unlimited gacha once more to begin building a kingdom that will open the path to his vengeance. And in that instant, the abyss bursts into a bright light, becoming the first page of his grand story of revenge. Then, in the blink of an eye, 3 years pass, and now we see that our protagonist has built an entire kingdom at the bottom of the abyss, a highly advanced society where he is worshipped, although May is not very happy about how obsessed the fairies are with her master. And as they walk through the citadel, everyone greets him kindly while also reporting that there are issues with resources. So May instantly says she will take action to replenish supplies. 3 years have passed and many new people have come to live there, so Light thinks they should reevaluate how they manage everything and asks May what the other 4-9s are doing, and she tells him they are working very hard. Aoyuki is exploring and mapping the area around the abyss. Ellie is working endlessly to develop new magic, and Asuna is patrolling inside the castle since she is an expert in close combat and also very charismatic, although May doesn't think it's a good idea to leave her inside the castle. Later, they run into Jack, a level 777 card who trains Light, and because Jack speaks very casually to him, May doesn't like it, but Light tells her not to worry, and then they begin training where we see Light has improved so much he can now face a level 777 card. Meanwhile, Asuna finishes checking the castle, and when she meets the cleaning fairies, she proudly tells them she's on a super important mission assigned directly by Lord Light, and the fairies praise her work, though mostly just to make her feel good. And since Asuna lets it get to her head, the fairies take advantage and ask her to patrol a certain secret location they themselves can't approach, and Asuna innocently agrees, unaware of anything suspicious, while the fairies grin mischievously. In the next scene, Asuna knocks on a door and is greeted by May, who demands to know why she has come to Light's room, and Asuna says she's patrolling and asks what May is doing in Lord Light's bedroom if she's supposed to be training with Jack, and May quickly claims she's cleaning. But while she's talking, Asuna walks inside and comments that it looks more like May is rolling around on her master's bed. So May tries to bluff, saying it's a secret bed-making technique, which Asuna finds interesting, but May refuses to explain because it's a secret maid art. And Asuna says she wouldn't expect any less from the first card ever summoned by Lord Light, making May quietly relieved because Asuna really isn't very smart. However, Asuna remembers she has a message and pulls out a card to inform May that the fairies disapprove of her monopolizing Lord Light's room since they also have the right to clean it, and they demand a vote to end the headmaid monopoly. And Asuna reads out loud that the fairies curse her 3 times, though she doesn't understand it well, and wonders if they're doing it so she gains resistance. But May tells her not to worry since it's an internal matter between the headmaid and the cleaning fairies, then thanks her and gives her coins as compensation. Asuna happily leaves, buys pancakes and milk, and returns to the castle where she runs into Aoyuki, asking if she wasn't supposed to be patrolling the forest. But Aoyuki only meows in response to everything until she finally explains she returned to deliver the map May requested. Asuna slaps her on the back, praising her loudly for doing excellent work, and then continues her patrol until she arrives at Light's throne, shouting "Red bean pancakes" to check if any monsters are around. And seeing everything is clear, she begins rubbing her face all over Light's throne, whining about not having seen him all day. But unfortunately, she ends up breaking one of the throne's ornaments, so she quickly picks it up, puts it back in place, and runs away because dumb as she is, she's not completely stupid. Meanwhile, our protagonist continues training with Jack, who suggests stopping for now and going for a bath, which Light thinks is a great idea, and now in a large hot spring, because let's be honest, it wouldn't be anime without one. Jack congratulates him for getting much better at controlling his body, and says there aren't many fighters down here who can face him one-on-one, and he doubts the surface world has many opponents either, maybe very few. Light answers that they don't know what waits for them above, but he won't let his guard down, not until he completes his revenge. Meanwhile, in May's office, the cleaning fairies stand nervously while she asks if they know why they were summoned, and they pretend not to know, but May begins reciting every single word of their earlier message, making the fairies panic and step back repeatedly before apologizing again and again as May asks them what they were trying to accomplish with such behavior. Although the cleaning fairies try to defend themselves with cheap excuses, May tells them their biggest mistake was sending Nasuna to do their dirty work, so as punishment, they must clean the entire grand hallway leading to Light's throne, and they must do it by hand. The fairies panic because that hallway is ridiculously long, but May reminds them that the path to being a perfect maid is harsh, and since she must go to the surface for a mission for Light, they will handle all the work until she returns, so the fairies accept with no choice. While Nasuna bumps into Ellie at the market, who asks if she is looking for sweets, but Nasuna says she is admiring a gauntlet and then asks why Ellie is in the city instead of creating magic, and Ellie proudly says she returned because all her plans are proceeding perfectly and asks if Nasuna is stupid. Nasuna gets offended, claiming she is not stupid, although she can't even recite the multiplication table of 1. And soon, both begin arguing like children while the citizens watch, thinking they are extremely immature, and Ellie smugly brags about how many times she has had tea with the great and blessed Lord Light and is sure that next time they will have dinner alone in his room and spend the night together, causing Nasuna to explode with frustration because she also wants to drink tea with Light and begins throwing a tantrum. So Ellie asks if that's all she wants, and Nasuna honestly says yes, which makes Ellie tell her she's an idiot if tea is the only thing she wants from her lord. But after all the yelling, Nasuna finally tells Ellie that even if Ellie is only good at magic, she can still count on Nasuna for close combat tasks, then happily walks away to continue her patrol as if nothing happened, leaving Ellie thinking that's exactly the kind of person Nasuna is. Meanwhile, the cleaning fairies complain, wondering why May is mad at them when they only protested her monopolizing Light's room. But since they know they cannot oppose the headmaid, they wonder if they could poison her, though one fairy reminds the others May is immune to poison, and they lament because they just want to clean their lord's room and also lick his boots, lick his forks, smell his clothes, and many other obsessive things, which all of them admit they would happily do. As they talk strategy, they remember May was the first card Light ever summoned, and that 3 whole months passed before Aoyuki was summoned, meaning May and the young master were alone together for 3 entire months, and back then he was inexperienced, so they all burst with jealousy at May's absurd luck and immediately try turning their jealousy into negative energy to curse her and wish for her death. But right then May walks into the room, surprising them since she was supposed to be on the surface, and she calmly says she was on her way when she happened to hear their lovely prayers, and the fairies clench their little bottoms in fear as May demands an explanation. Cornered, they admit they are jealous because she was the first to serve Light and spent 3 whole months with him, and May tells them she is not obligated to explain anything, but she will reveal this much. Before Aoyuki was summoned, she spent those months teaching her lord combat techniques and disciplining him, so they had no time for indecent things, then says she came because she thought she was too harsh with their previous punishment, but now realizes she was completely wrong and that they actually need even more work, so she orders them to also clean the throne hall, since if they have time to cast curses, they have time to clean every corner of the hall. After a sharp, threatening glare, the fairies promise to do their best, and later, they are seen scrubbing the throne hall desperately when they find the mess Nasuna left behind, while Nasuna in her room laments that she didn't get to see Lord Light all day, but hopes she will see him tomorrow. The next day, as Light exits the castle, he runs into Nasuna, Ellie, and Aoyuki, and the moment the girls see him, they all begin complaining at once, especially Aoyuki. But suddenly, a hellhound appears, and Light begins trembling as he remembers that terrible day. But his loyal companions instantly prepare to annihilate the beast for daring to approach their lord, their aura so terrifying that even the hellhound kneels in fear. But Light tells them not to worry, because he is fine, and gently pets the hellhound, thinking his companions would wipe out an entire species even if he joked about it. And when May asks what mission he has today, Light explains that he received her message and that it is time to prepare because one of their targets has taken the bait, and he needs all of them to handle the first prey and begin the revenge he has planned for 3 years. Meanwhile, in another city, Guru is being praised by everyone, and when he runs into a human, he takes the chance to humiliate him as usual. And later in a restaurant, his bootlickers keep flattering him non-stop, admiring his skills and his amazing perception, and Garu proudly explains that thanks to his nose, he always took the best jobs, and that is what raised him to the top. One of his lackeys asks if those jobs include the one from 3 years ago with the Concordia of Tribes and what kind of job that was, but the others quickly tell him to shut up because that mission was secret and only the great Guru could do it. And Garu apologizes but says he is sworn to secrecy while thinking that in reality that job was the easiest of his life. Remembering the moment they disposed of Light, a job that made him rich and famous, although it always bothered him that they never found the kid after he was teleported, and he wonders about the mysterious master everyone is desperately searching for. Suddenly his instincts flare up and he feels that digging deeper could be dangerous, but exactly then May appears in the restaurant apologizing for disturbing him. And now, in a new scene inside the dungeon, she disguises herself as a devil while being escorted by Garu's group, and Garu recalls how she introduced herself at the restaurant as a loyal servant of Light, explaining that Light comes from a noble bloodline and she is desperately searching for him, though Garu didn't believe a word because Light didn't look noble at all. But May insisted she cannot reveal details and begged him not to ask too many questions, saying she recently learned he was Garu from the Concordia of Tribes and that her Lord Light had joined that group of adventurers supposedly dying in the abyss. Garu thinks it could all be lies, but if it's true and Light belongs to nobility, escorting her could make him incredibly wealthy. So he asks what she wants, and she asks him to escort her to the place where Light was last seen. Garu says the place is too dangerous, but May opens a case filled with 3 gold bars, and Garu wonders if Light's family is really noble if even a maid can pay that much just to be escorted. And although he senses it could be a trap, he still believes humans are weak, and Garu tells May that the money doesn't matter because Light was supposedly a great friend in their group. So he accepts the deal, and May pretends to cry with excitement while Garu secretly thinks that once he takes her to that place, he will enjoy her body and destroy her over Light's grave. And later, they finally arrive at the spot where they ambushed him, where Garu makes up lie after lie while May kneels and pretends to cry, mourning what happened to her master. Garu blocks the exits, but May begins describing everything they did to Light in that exact place, and Garu snaps into alert mode, wondering how this woman knows every detail when only a few people know what truly happened. So he demands to know who she is and who she works for, and May stands up to reveal that her loyalty belongs only to her master Light. And when she glares at him with pure rage, Garu and his group panic, unable to understand why they suddenly feel fear toward that woman, and as her threatening stare shows Garu that he is already dead, Light suddenly arrives and tells May to calm down, because Garu is his prey. Garu and his men are shocked, wondering how a filthy human child reached the heart of the abyss, and Light lifts his hood to show his face while Garu, unable to believe it, asks how he is still alive, and Light smiles and tells him he's here to collect his revenge with 3 years of interest. Garu bursts out laughing and asks if a mere level 15 human boy came back to take revenge on him, a level 150 beastman, and says Light has no idea how he survived, but made a huge mistake by showing his face because once he kills him and brings back his body, he will be crowned king of the beastmen. But Light looks disappointed and asks if Garu isn't curious about how he survived and what his connection to May is, and Garu admits he is right since he cannot measure the strength of that strange maid, but says it doesn't matter because 2 humans can't do anything against his entire group, all above level 130, and he doesn't care how Light survived since it must have been thanks to that woman finding him. Light agrees partly, but Garu doesn't wait and orders his men to kill him, yet in an instant May tears the heads off 2 of them, and Light thanks her for stepping in but asks her to go block the exits. Garu's group cannot believe that such a maid killed their companions so easily, but Garu tells them to stay calm because it was a surprise attack since inferior humans could never surpass them. But Light says he is disappointed because they haven't changed at all, and asks if it never crossed their minds that perhaps the truly weak ones are the other races, and Garu screams that humans are trash since their mana capacity is minimal, showing his level 158 status. But Light explains that races vary greatly in how far their levels can go, and this difference is what created initiated discrimination against humans. Garou tells him humans are garbage, yet Light asks how garbage killed 2 of his men, and Garou insists he must have used some magical item. Then all of them rush at Light, but he easily knocks them out and then approaches Garou, asking if he's already tired. And Garou, blinded by rage at being looked down on, steps back and says Light will pay for pretending to be superior when he's just a useless insect, then summons his magic beast Fenrir and proudly warns Light to prepare for his secret weapon, a level 500 Fenrir. But Light only sighs and says it's pathetically weak. Garou assumes Light has gone insane with fear and orders him to crawl like the trash he is and beg for forgiveness on all fours. But Light drops his weapon and tells Garou he won't move from that spot so he can do whatever he wants, and Garou immediately orders his beast to attack with its roar, saying that all the concentrated mana will pulverize Light. But then he freezes in shock when he sees Light isn't even scratched, merely brushing off dust and saying the attack only kicked up dirt. Everyone is speechless as Light tells Garou it's his turn now and says calling that poor puppy Fenrir gives the wrong impression, so he'll show him what a real Fenrir looks like, and he summons the true primordial wolf god Fenrir, a level 9000 card who destroys Garou's beast with a single breath. Garou and his group gape at its overwhelming power, but Light says he could have wiped out that puppy himself and shows his level, making all of them clench in terror as they ask if humans weren't supposed to only reach level 100. And Garou insists Light must be an imposter since he looks the same as 3 years ago. But Light explains he is using the Bracelet of Youth, which prevents aging and helps him remember the pain, anger, and despair they made him endure. Garou realizes he cannot win and begins begging for his life, saying he was only following orders from the Federation and blaming the others for the attack, but they shout that it's all lies. And Light asks Garou's group if they know anything, and they all say yes. So Mei instantly slices them into sushi for daring to lie to her master Light. Garou's fear explodes as Light asks one last question. Based on the power Light and Mei displayed, does he think they could win a war against the surface world? And he warns him not to lie because Mei has the eye of truth and sees everything. Garou wets himself and says with the power Light showed, the war would begin in his favor. But no matter his level, he's still only one person, while the nations of the world have spent years gathering weapons, armor, and special items. So once everyone unites against him, he will face difficulties. Light agrees and says that's exactly what he thought, because there is a limit to what a single person can do. And although he has more questions, he will first teleport Garou somewhere, and using a teleport card they arrive at the throne hall, where Garou trembles at the sight of all the forces under Light's control as every one of them bows in respect. Light sits on his throne and orders all his soldiers to rise and show their levels, and every single one of them is above level 1500. And he tells Garou these are the forces he has gathered over the last 3 years, and asks again what the chances are of winning a war against all nations. Garou's expression says everything, and Light smiles joyfully and congratulates him for earning the privilege of suffering agony and despair worse than death. Garou stammers, asking if Light plans to become a god since with that much power he could destroy the world in an instant, and Light says becoming a god doesn't sound bad, but whether he becomes a benevolent god or a demon lord depends on the answer from the surface world, because the time has finally come to march from the abyss toward the surface, from the heart of darkness into the light. And with that, episode 3 came to an end.